So here's a fun fact about me. When I first started playing Marvel Rivals, the only character I ever wanted to use was Spider-Man, because I wrongfully believed that if I was willing to put in the hours with the guy, by the time I came out the other side, I'd be an unstoppable god. As it turns out though, when the character you're using is ultimately limited based on the resources he has by default, that means even at the high level, people are going to understand that just as well as you do, and they're going to kill you for it. So after being emotionally and sometimes physically harassed to change my character over and over, I eventually got to the point where I just don't feel like using Spider-Man anymore. He's just not strong enough to justify it. However, anytime I play tank, I always find that my healers aren't doing their job, so whenever I try and occupy space, I die immediately, even if I wait for them to be right behind me. And on the other end of the spectrum, whenever I play a healer and try and keep the tank alive, they do absolutely nothing to make sure my ass doesn't get exploded by the nearest dive DPS. So ironically enough, in the average quick play match, my most reliable option for any given team is actually to play a DPS, because at least in doing that, I can make some form of a difference. And after playing a multitude of different DPSs over my time with the game, the one that I eventually came to gravitate to the most was none other than the Winter Soldier. Don't get me wrong, I put some time into a few others. You know, I enjoyed my time with Mr. Fantastic. I enjoyed Punisher up until I realized I was getting MVP every other game with him. And of course, Psylocke was cool until I realized the 5-star difficulty attached to her was only in regards to people who play the character with one hand. So I decided, you know what? Yeah, screw it. I'm just gonna go try and get as many Steam achievements as I can. And lo and behold, eventually the time came for me to try and get 3 kills with 1 use of Kraken Impact. And because I'm dog shit and didn't really understand the game, by the time I finally did it, I had about an hour on Bucky, and now he was my favorite character in the game. I really enjoy the way this little bastard plays. He is such a nuisance in all of the best ways possible, and I wouldn't have it any other way. There is probably going to be more than a fair share of people in the comment section who say he's overpowered, but as I have learned with Spider-Man, people think anything that they lose to is overpowered, so that's just how it's going to be. Here's the thing though, I believe Bucky is a character who awards consistency and skill more than just being some cheap one-trick character like, oh, you know, Hela or Hawkeye. For me at least, when I get a kill with Bucky, it feels like I had to earn that kill, because I usually ride somewhere right behind my tank in order to try and cause as much chaos as possible. And believe me, I am absolutely equipped to deal with that chaos. The mere instant some dumb bastard decides they're gonna overextend and step into my territory, that's a one-way ticket either A, to the back of the line, or B, to the lobby, because I'm taking them out in 2 hits. But they can't even be like, oh, that's so cheap, how come you could beat me in 2 hits? Because they have to be headshots, baby. I'm not Hawkeye, I can't get you with 1 lucky blow. When I get you, it means that your dumbass was either moving predictably, or I just simply put, was the better player. Literally, moments before I filmed this video, there was some Star-Lord who was always like aggressively pushing me, and he was always doing like the little like jittery kind of spray thing, and every single time he did it, I humbled his ass. And it feels so good knowing I had the tools to deal with that at any given time. It genuinely feels like Bucky just has an answer to most situations he can get into, and therefore I'm now making this entire video purely for the purposes of sucking his cock. Is it gay? Maybe a little bit, but I'm feeling generous today, so I might as well. So here's the thing, right? You know what annoys me more than anything else in this game in the current moment? It's not something as frivolous as the Spider-Man or, you know, people overhealing. It's those motherfuckers like Iron Man. And I don't hate them because I think that they're overpowered or unfair. I hate them because it seems like my entire team lacks the ability to turn their neck up 90 degrees. So what always ends up happening is that if I'm not playing Spider-Man, there's going to be some Iron Man giving out free back shots to anybody on the opposing team. However, I no longer gotta switch to Spider-Man or Hawkeye to deal with it, because now the character I gravitate to the most is Bucky, and what do you know, he has 2 options of dealing with it. Either A, I could show off my tried and true American patriotism by pulling out a gun and killing his ass, or I can slap him around with a pair of balls. And in case you don't know what that means, if you hit them with this little red ball thing, they are immediately going to slow down and slowly descend from the sky. And let me tell you, there is nothing funnier than the 4 other DPS players inside of my lobby who haven't been able to catch the guy just slowly descending on the grounded Iron Spider-Man like a pack of ravenous dogs. And in that moment, when the Hulk, the Psylocke, and the Iron Fist all just start surrounding this guy, you know it's because they have a score to settle. Now, I think I might have mentioned Hawkeye already and how his headshots are cheap. I don't know, might have cut that out. But with Bucky, it is on the exact opposite end of the spectrum. Winter Soldiers are simply put not equipped to deal with long-range flanks like that. If they're going to kill you effectively, they're gonna have to do so at close range on their own terms. This means when the Bucky slaps you out of the sky faster than your father beats you on report card day, it's not because he was doing a lot of damage, it's because your dumbass didn't recognize that he was shooting at you to begin with. Bucky's revolver, by default, has damage drop-off, and even at a range of about, let's say like 25 meters, it's not a lethal two-shot anymore. You'll definitely be knocking on death's door by the second headshot at that range, and you'll wish that the infirmary didn't pick you up once you see the bill, but you won't be dead. The closer you actually get, the more lethal it becomes, which is great for somebody like me who likes to be, as KSI would say, in the thick of it. When you are pushing somebody with Bucky, you are doing so with a level of unbridled confidence, because in the back of your head, you know that any poor motherfucker with less than 250 health is going to be out of your sight in a matter of seconds. And that's such a good feeling, especially when it pertains to that Thor who thought it would be a good idea to try and jackslap you with Mjolnir. As a former Spider-Man player, do you have any idea how much I hate tanks inside of Marvel Rivals? Because believe me, buddy, it's more than you might think. I am a very petty man. I remember things better than you may expect. I don't take names, the autistic side of my brain does. And the second I see you, it's not PTSD hitting me, it's violent intentions. And when I play Bucky, I know that I'm in the shoes of a character who's just as mentally damaged as I am. And maybe it's projecting, but there's a special kind of comfort in knowing that our PTSD synced minds have just the right tools to deal with these little bastards. If you push me as a tank, I'm going to kill you, and if I don't, I'm gonna push you right back, and I mean that quite literally. For some reason, Winter Soldier has a dash ability which can not only drag people away from your team if they try and overextend, but it also lines you up to nail a pretty good headshot, usually at an upward angle, and what do you know, as a former Spider-Man player, I'm very familiar with those. God have mercy on your soul when I'm jerking you around like a fat black cock, because there's nothing you can do about it, baby. And what makes it so much funnier is that they don't even have to overextend. This guy also is equipped with the ability of pulling people right towards you. So let's say, for example, you're dealing with two healers, right? You know, you got a Mantis and you got a Invisible Girl. We both know that that Invisible Girl is the only thing keeping that Mantis alive. So as a Winter Soldier, what I'm going to do is first, I'm going to strike them with the tentacle to let them know pain, and then I'm going to tackle them into the direction of my team as far away from the other healer as I can. So now that both the healers understand the pain and abandonment that I felt when my father left me, that means it's my turn to actually deal with them. And at this range, that reality is only 2 clicks away, and believe me, buddy, I'm not going to miss. And of course, by far, the best thing about this character is when you suddenly hear somebody go, armed and dangerous. You can look me in the eyes and tell me that Marvel Rivals isn't a horror game, but we both know that the second you hear again for like the 3rd time, your ass ain't gonna leave spawn. I do not care if your team has been funneling kills into the opposition for the last 15 minutes. The second that they hear again for the 3rd time, they ain't going anywhere, bro. There is just a mutual understanding in that moment that to walk out that door is just to co-sign yourself to the Grim Reaper. And the amount of power I feel in that moment must be how women feel on Tinder with all of the matches that they get. And much like women, you have the confidence of knowing you're perfectly equipped to play with people's emotions, and only in doing that will you finally be in a state of pure fucking euphoria where you can see the very strings the universe is attached to. I am creaming my pants just thinking about it, but unfortunately there is one downside, and that is, at the end of the day, Winter Soldier is a popular character. And of course, in the event that somebody's on a better setup than you, or if Marvel Rivals decides to shit its pants that particular game, they're going to load in faster, and they are going to take your character. That is merely the harsh reality of the world that we live in. A reality that only gets harsher once you see that the Bucky who decided to insta-lock is currently going 2-8. Ladies, gentlemen, and those beyond the binary, this has been ZenkoSolo, and I'm officially done sucking off the soldier. So if you want seconds, by all means, go ahead. And of course, until I feel like talking about video games again, I'll see you all around. Farewell.